welcome back everyone to the Hello World Guide. This is another episode of the Android game development series. If you remember, in the last video we made this basic game object system, and in this video we are going to extend it. So we are going to start by adding a selected and selection offset variable. So the selection offset is going to represent the offset from the center that we selected, and the selected boolean is whether we have got something selected or not. And since we want to change stuff in the on touch event, we are going to have it take a reference to game object as well as one of the arguments, and when we are actually calling the game touch, we will make sure to provide that as well. Anyways, you can see we've got this here, and in the down we are going to just set self.selected to true. Otherwise we are going to check if its type is equal to the move event. If it is equal to, well, first let's do the up event. If it is equal to up event, we are going to just set selected to false. Otherwise, if it is the move event, then of course we want to actually move this object. And so in order to do that, we are also going to set the selection offset to self dot not self. We're going to take the cursor position and subtract the self position from that to get the offset from the center that we selected at, and we want to move relative to this offset, so we are going to subtract the selection offset that we have got from the position whenever we want to set our self dot position. And here we are going to make an std string called tag. This tag is going to be used to identify our game objects with various things. For example, this game object is going to have the tag of player, so that we know that this is actually the player, but we are going to add the tag later. Let's first go ahead and make sure that we only move if self.selected is true. Otherwise we don't want to do anything, and let me just put player here. And when we are calling the object dot on touch, we need to pass a reference to the object as well, and this needs to be not a const reference because we of course need to change the object. So here one other thing we are going to do is currently we are only doing this events if the object has got if the object is actually within the cursor boundaries, but we also want to do it if the object is selected regardless of wherever we touched, because that is needed for correct movement. And I mistyped plus here, it needs to be minus. So if I go ahead and run that, what you should be able to see is that we have got this box here, and you can see that I can move it around, and you can see if I hold it from the corner, that is where basically our anchor is. So you can see that is quite nice and it is working correctly. Alright, but in a breakout game we only want the movement to happen on the x-axis, so we are going to set this to only move on the x-axis here. And another thing is that we want the y-axis position to be set correctly, so we are going to just go ahead and set the initial position to be 0 on the x, because we want x to be in the center of course, but for the y we want it at the bottom of the screen. So you might want to try something like 5 or -5 actually, and we can also try something lower like 2.5 because that's our zoom of the camera, but we might also want to base it on the camera zoom, so we can say negative camera dot zoom multiplied by 1.5f. And while this works on this particular device because of the aspect ratio, it might fail on other devices that have different aspect ratios, so we'll see how to fix that very soon. For now, let's just go ahead and set the size correctly. So we're going to set the size, for example, on the x we are fine with 1, but on the y let's set it to say 0.25 to make it a lot thinner on the y, just like how it's supposed to be in the breakout, and you can see that is working correctly. Now if we want this to work on screens of any aspect ratio, we are going to have to go ahead and modify our camera class a bit. So inside of my camera class, I'm going to add a few other variables to have some values. We are going to represent the values for the right, left, top and bottom of the camera view. And when we are updating the projection, what we will do is we'll, instead of just setting it like this, we are going to set each of the left, right as well as the bottom and top variables. We are going to set the top to negative zoom multiply by, actually that's bottom, and we are going to basically set our variables each time the update projection is called. And then for creating the projection we can just use these, so we can say left, right, bottom and top, and yeah, that is going to work correctly. So now back in our game class, we are going to have another function callback which we are going to call on update, and this is not going to take any of these arguments and just going to take a reference to our game object. And here we are going to go ahead and have the dot on update. We are going to define it here, and we are going to define it as a lambda function that takes a game object reference. We are going to call it self, and of course we need to put a comma here. And the next thing we can do is we can set the position to the correct value here, but for that of course we need to have a way to get get actually access the camera inside of our game objects. So for that we'll create a game state. Now this game state will just contain a reference to a camera, and this game state is something that our onUpdate function will get. So here I'm going to go ahead and make our onUpdate function take a game state argument, and once you do that, what we can do is we can remove this const from the when we are looping over, and we can call onUpdate, and we can pass the object as an argument as well as the state. And this state is something we're going to just create here, and it's going to just contain the camera. It's just a reference to a camera. And here we can say self.position.y is equal to state.camera.bottom plus say 0.5, just because we don't want it exactly at the bottom, and we don't need to set it like that now. And running this now, you can see that we have got this paddle here at the bottom. Perhaps we can change this to 1.5 is a bit too less, and if I try to run that, you can see that we've got this, and we can move this around, and it worked quite nicely. So we have got our little paddle for our breakout implemented. Now of course currently it does not respect the screen boundaries, so we do need to fix that. We are also going to make our game touch function also take a game state, because of course we'll need the access to a game state in that. And here we are going to set the we can get the state.camera, and we can use its left and right. Well, we can actually just use an std clamp here. So we are going to go ahead and do std clamp, and we are going to clamp the position between say for example the self.camera state.camera.left as well as state.camera.right. And if I go ahead and actually run it like that, what you can see is that it actually gives an error. We need to pass the state here as well, so we're going to just do a state here, and we're going to pass that. And if I go ahead and try to run that, what you should see is that as you can see, we have got our thing here, and you can see I can move it around, but it still goes around halfway. That is because for the left we need to add the half of the x size on it, and for the right we need to subtract not the full size but instead the half size. And if I go ahead and do that, what you should see is that if I run this, we have got our breakout paddle, which you can see I cannot move beyond the ends of the screen, and that means it is working correctly. So anyways guys, this is going to be pretty much it for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Make sure to like and subscribe as well, and share this video with other people, and bye.